and welcome to Central Florida Salute. I'm your host, Bob Peters, and I have with me a two-timer, a United States Marine and Air Force Dan Clare, who's also the head of the DAV. You'll give me your proper title when we talk, Dan. But first, I want to know a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally, and when did you go into Marines, and why?
Hey, Bob, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm honored to be here. You do great work for veterans, and we really appreciate that. My name is Dan Clare. I'm a spokesperson for DAV, Disabled American Veterans. I am from Lincoln, Nebraska. Grew up in cold country up there. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. I turned 18 while I was in boot camp. Did 4 years as a combat correspondent in the Marine Corps. Loved it. Worked with great people. Lieutenant Colonel Keith Oliver from your area is one of them. Just enjoyed my time in the Marine Corps. I was a broadcaster. I ran a newspaper. Got out of the Marine Corps in '98. Went back in 2001, just a few months before 9/11. I went into the Air National Guard in California, and it was really interesting because I was able to fly with the FEMA teams when our nation had been attacked, and that was a really proud moment for me to just be able to be a part of something like that. I really kind of got the bug then on service, and so I ended up deploying to Iraq in 2007, and by then I'd started working with the charity DAV. So I was kind of a DAV liaison as sort of my off-duty time was spent kind of coordinating some volunteer initiatives with DAV in Iraq. So it's been my military career was a whole lot of fun for the most part, and very serious when I served in Iraq.
Yeah, when you went to Iraq, were you with the Marines or the Air Force?
Yeah, I'd been out. I just enlisted in the Air National Guard right before 9/11, and I'd hoped to go in 2004, but I was in the Air Force. I was activated into the Air Force. I was in Balad Air Base. That was it was called Mortaritaville, because we were rocketed or mortared pretty much every day. And that was also, it was one of the biggest bases in Iraq. Everyone, the Air Force Theater Hospital was there. So everyone who got hurt in Iraq would cycle through Balad to get back to Germany. And some folks, unfortunately, were taken all the way home who didn't make it. So that was, it was a great experience in Iraq, but also that's where, my first experience with burn pits came as soon as we landed there.
Yeah, are you have a service-related injury yourself, or how did you get involved with the DAV?
Yeah, I served in the Marine Corps, and service is difficult. It can change you a little bit. I didn't have a severe disability certainly when I got out of the Marine Corps, but I had enough. I'd been changed enough to be eligible for membership in DAV. And I think more than anything for me, my grandfather was a DAV life member. It was a chance to just stand with my fellow veterans who'd been changed in service, and so that's really what got me involved in DAV.
Okay, and I appreciate everything you do, by the way. That's a great organization. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about the organization. Uh, who qualifies? It has to be service related, not service related, or 10 years down the road, I came up with Agent Orange. How does that work?
Sure. I mean, DAV, our membership eligibility is we help veterans who are service-connected, wartime disabled veterans who have other than a higher discharge rating than dishonorable. So if you have a general discharge, where it will help you. Actually, if you had a bad conduct discharge that maybe is eligible for an upgrade, we have resources for that too to help people out on that side of things. But you're wartime service connected. You can come home, as you know, with Agent Orange with something inside of you that might not manifest for decades, even a half century. In some cases, we're seeing people see the lingering effects. Our goal is to make sure the promise is kept. Our goal is to make people whole, make sure they're getting health care if they were changed while they were in uniform, make sure that they're getting benefits if they're unable to work or if it's affecting their ability to work, and just across the board, access to care. We have a transportation network in your area. It does great things getting veterans to and from their appointments. We're a lobbying organization. You know, we're in front of Congress. Here we testify every year on our legislative agenda before the joint committees of the House and Senate Veterans Affairs. It's an organization that does a lot. One of the things that we do is employment. We help veterans through job fairs connect with employers. We help them with entrepreneurship. That's a new program for DAV. We also enable volunteers, our transportation network drivers. They provide 250,000 rides a year. And Bob, you and I know that in that area, especially when you're a little further from a VA facility, it gets harder and harder to get to those appointments, especially for aging veterans. So DAV does that, but we're able to do it because we got a lot of great volunteers who just get involved and donate their precious time to help veterans get to and from their appointments. So there's a lot of different aspects to DAV. Caregivers is a new initiative that DAV has. But like I said, it's really about keeping the promise and making veterans whole, getting them back to 100%.
Yeah. Do you do the sports programs? You have because I know a dear friend of mine who's a Army veteran, Gulf War veteran, Ike Fritz. He wears the electroskeleton. I guess that's how you say it. And I did a show with him. You can check it out on our YouTube. Ike walked into our Eagles area after 30 years of being in a wheelchair, but thanks to the skeleton, he walked in, and it was a really emotional thing. But I know he travels the country, and I think the DAV helped him out to get started too with all kinds of assist. I know they have programs where they, compete.
Sure. I mean, we have adaptive sports programs, and we partner with the Department of Veterans Affairs for 2 of them. One of them is in late March, starts in late March every year. And that's the National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic. You can check that out at wintersportsclinic.org. Maybe there'll be that link in the YouTube video. But that's a program where around 400 severely disabled veterans, blind veterans, amputees, people with spinal cord injuries, they're skiing in Snowmass, Colorado near Aspen. They're climbing rock walls, they're scuba diving, they're playing sled hockey, they're cross-country skiing. And those adaptive sporting events, you're right, are just phenomenal. We don't really have a competition per se because every veteran's disabilities are unique. But what it is all about is maximum potential. It's not just the physical well-being that you get from exercise and being involved in these activities. It's being able to challenge some of your perceived limitations once you get back home. So it really changes veterans. Our other adaptive sporting event is in Iowa every year around September, and that's the National Disabled Golf Clinic. It's held on world-class PGA links. We have a great experience out there, and there's a lot of blind veterans who are out there golfing. And for me, I'm terrified of skiing. You know, big bad Marine that I was, I'm terrified of skiing. But then you see a blind veteran just coursing down a mountainside, and you say, well, I really don't have any excuses for why I'm such a pathetic athlete.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say pathetic athlete. Well,
I appreciate it.
I've seen what those programs do because Ike is a dear friend of mine. He was a Gulf War. He was part of a 2-man rescue team, and he was on a vehicle. And as he says, I got lit up, but nothing stops this guy, and he will be there next Friday. We're going to be doing a big, you won't see this show, but I'm going to mention it to you now that we're doing an informational thing with the service officer from Florida, Lake County, and also someone from the DAV who to be announced. And Ike will be there.
Oh, that's awesome.
I talked to him this morning. Yeah, he just got over. He broke his back. He was in an automobile accident, and his back got fractured again. And now he's back in a chair, but he's hoping to get back up to where he can walk again. So, but nothing stops that young man. He's that's what you see with these people. And I really like what the DAV does. Now, when did the DAV come into existence?
DAV's been around a minute. We were founded in 1920. Our founder was a Distinguished Service Cross recipient. He was a captain named Judge Robert Marks. He was a circuit court judge in Cincinnati. He got into the Army, was made an officer, and he was serving in like the literal final days, the last couple days of World War I. He was wounded. He received the Distinguished Service Cross. You know, that's the second highest medal for valor. And he came back home to a country we really weren't prepared coming out of World War I. We've gotten a little bit better at that every generation, it seems like, but we were woefully unprepared after World War I. We were in a recession here at home. Veterans came back and the jobs weren't there. Veterans came back with being gassed in the trenches and having severe disfigurement from mechanical war. And Robert Marks saw that. He got together with a bunch of veterans in Cincinnati and said, we need an organization of us, by us, and for us to advocate for our fellow veterans. And that was the start of it. And we've really been building on that ever since. We're congressionally chartered as the voice of disabled veterans. We're a nonpartisan group, and we just really want to make a difference for the folks we serve.
Well, I think you do. I think it's great. And how many members do you think you have, roughly?
Yeah, we're nearly 1 million members nationwide. And that's, 1,200 chapters in communities across the country. We're in the villages there locally. People can get involved as members of DAV. You can get involved by legislating through DAV, helping us get the word out to congressmen that you care about veterans issues. There's all kinds of ways you can get involved, and we love that. As we see, and Bob, you see this probably as much as anyone, we get further and further away from the wars. People's memories shorten about the sacrifices that were made in those wars. And we are seeing this all volunteer force, right? We're many years since we've called a draft, many generations.
Oh, I know about the draft.
Well, yeah, we're 50 years out from I think the draft. We've just marked that in the last couple of years. So what we've done is we've taken our national defense and we've put it in the hands of about 2%, less than 2% of the population is defending our country. And then we add in 2 wars. We add in, the technology that we have in terms of aircraft. So the people who have been fighting for the last 20 years in Afghanistan and Iraq, they've had multiple deployments. They have tremendous challenges. Their families have tremendous challenges from just a period where we were absolutely stretching our military thin, asking a lot of people. Bob, you probably remember meeting 2 war veterans. That was always a big deal to me. You met someone who was in Korea and Vietnam, or in Vietnam and the Gulf War. And now we're seeing 3 war veterans, some of the Gulf War folks who were still around into 9/11. We're seeing it's just been a demanding time. And so there's a lot of great needs out there for especially our most recent wounded veterans, and then our aging population of veterans. A lot of the disabilities they had earlier in life kind of catch up to you as you get older too. So that's a concern. And then our caregivers who are really helping us out as well.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. The fact on our YouTube channel, there's Ed Towns. Ed fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And when I interviewed him, he said, well, I was in Korea, World War II, Korea. And I said, didn't you have enough? He says, well, I want to get back in the action. So he became a Vietnam veteran and an amazing man. He just turned 102.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. That's your homework assignments. Check out Central Florida Salute YouTube. I've interviewed people from the 1936 Olympics who were at the bridge of the River Kwai.
Wow.
In Dutch West Indies, the Japanese took away his medal. He got it back at the end of the war. But the whole history's there. World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and modern day. Matter of fact, being in the Marine Corps, I don't know, maybe if you knew 2-star General David Kaufman.
I've certainly heard the name. I called all those folks with stars, sir. So I stayed out of trouble that way.
Yeah, he's retired. We became very good friends. He's on my show. and what a guy he is, you know. But the DAV, before when we end this show, I'm going to have you put out the information as however you can get people want questions or whatever, you know, the website, phone number, what have you.
Sure.
Uh, but I understand you did a lot of communications, right?
Sure. Yeah,
You
absolutely.
a future broadcaster in 1997. Is that right? Remember that?
Feature broadcaster of the year. Yeah, I got an award for some coverage of snipers while I was in AFN Okinawa. But yeah, I did, and you know, my time in the Marine Corps, I really enjoyed it. I had a very good experience, and it made me, you know, towards the end of the time I had left in the individual ready reserve, I decided I wanted to keep that going, so I joined the Guard. When I deployed to Iraq, though, that's when I encountered burn pits, and it's kind of weird that I was someone who worked for disabled American veterans, and I ended up on a crisis communications team where there was a memo on the hazards of burn pits. A bioenvironmental engineer named Darren Curtis had dug in and looked at the toxins that were being emitted from this giant open air burn pit, and he said, "This is the worst disaster he's ever seen. It's just awful, and we need to fix it." At that time, the Air Force would rather not fix it. We were thinking we needed to keep just kind of tread water for a while and hope that the word didn't get out. But I was part of releasing that information through DAV, and I'm really proud that I played a small role in getting the PACT Act through there with a lot of other, you know, people who did a lot more than me. But
You know, and a lot of people don't even know anything about burn pits. You know,
yeah.
tell us people who don't know what the burn pit was, how this all came about. And I salute you for getting the word out. You know, uh, you're making a difference, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much. Burn pits, I mean, the military, we think of this expeditionary force, right? We think of the meals that the military gets, like our rations that we get in the field. They're wrapped in plastic. They're pretty easy to, you know, to get into and eat, and you don't have to have someone to wash dishes or cook them. That's all just right there. Well, once you invade a country and you take over a bunch of bases and you have hundreds of thousands of people in that country, you start to get the problems that you would have if you were running a city in the US. You got all this trash, and unlike the US, you can't just outsource your trash. You have to defend where you keep your trash. So the most expeditious way to get rid of that trash is to burn it. Well, what we're burning in Iraq, you know, it's stuff that's going to make toxins, stuff that these aren't in incinerators. This is just a giant pile with bulldozers running through it, and it was constant. I have a weather forecast, and I'll share that with you guys. But for an entire week in the morning, the weather forecast, you know, like your 7-day weather forecast, said smoke and haze. That was our weather forecast for every day in Iraq. That's what we came to expect. So yeah, we were burning trash. It wasn't a malicious thing where commanders didn't care really about the safety of the people who are serving. It was just what was necessary to do, because if you turn your trash over to the enemy, they can use it against you. We weren't, you know, we had dining facilities, or DFACs, we call them. If you were lucky enough to be on base like I was, you could, you know, live the Fobbit lifestyle and get warm food. But we didn't want to send a bunch of people to wash dishes in a combat zone, so we hired that work out. But we generate a lot of trash. We're burning hundreds of tons of trash. And that trash, unfortunately, we know is going to have made a lot of people sick.
Yeah, and it did make a lot of people sick. And somebody comes down with these diseases now, like I say, 3 or 4 years after, 10 years after they were in. Can they get it related back to their time in the military?
That is the importance of the PACT Act, and I didn't even get to that. But
We want to get there.
what the PACT Act does is it establishes presumptives. We call them presumptives, and what that means is that if you get lung cancer and you served in Iraq for any period of time, we recognize that these burn pits were so awful that we're just going to presume that your lung cancer is connected to your military service. That expedites justice tremendously. DAV just did some research with the Military Officers Association of America. And in our research, we looked at presumptive conditions, and there's not a whole bunch of those out there. But we found that it takes more than 34 years to get a presumptive on the books. And you and I both know that means a lot of families, a lot of veterans have to wait a long period of time with
If they're
chronic
still
illness.
alive.
Yeah, if they're still alive. If they're, and then the burden of justice falls on their family members, and their surviving spouses aren't necessarily getting their benefits either. So the presumptives are important, and we're hoping that we're able to expedite that process even more, so that we can take care of veterans faster. Justice delayed is justice denied, right?
Yeah.
So if we can speed this stuff up, people who need help with their claims, we encourage them to come to DAV, because we'll walk you through that process. We're already collaborating on your veterans event, but anytime anyone needs to connect with a national service officer or a benefits advocate from DAV, a totally free service, totally free for survivors, totally free for family members who have benefits. They can come into our offices or contact us, and we'll work through that claims process, so you don't have to go it alone. And so someone who's been through that process before can walk you through it.
Give us the website or phone number, or if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how are they going to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fastest way is through dav.org for all of our programs and services. If you want to volunteer, if you need a ride, if you whatever you need connected to DAV can be found on our website or through our website. But I want to give you another a couple of links, if I could. If you need benefits claims assistance, it's very important that you take advantage of that. Like you said, some of these things can crop up later in life, and the longer you wait, the harder it is sometimes, especially if it's not presumptive, to get a service connection. So I'm encouraging everyone, if you don't need the benefits for yourself, you might need them for your family, to reach out to us. If you visit benefitsquestions.org, it's benefitsquestions.org. You can get connected with a locator and e-connect, or call one of our offices nationwide to get assistance there. If you want to volunteer for DAV, visit us at volunteerforveterans.org. These are just some shortcuts. We need drivers. The people who volunteer for DAV usually tell us that they get more out of the experience of contributing to a veteran or helping a veteran than they think the veteran necessarily gets from the service that they offer. So it's extremely rewarding. That's one way to get involved there. If you're looking for a job, visit us at jobs.dav.org. We have a scheduled job fair, so we can connect you with an employer, and anything else, like I said, dav.org.
Well, that's great. You know, I knew a guy who was a Vietnam veteran, and he developed Agent Orange, and he succumbed to it, you know. But sometimes when the people who got Agent Orange, they have kids, it kind of goes, you know, the kids can get affected and all that. And, you know, is there any program, you know, say this veteran passed and his child has a disability because of the Agent Orange? Is anybody do anything for that, or how's
Certainly,
that work?
if that child was a dependent and the veteran's death was caused as a result of Agent Orange exposure, they would be eligible, I believe, for benefits. I'm not a benefits advisor. We're concerned about the impact that war has on people's ability to, you know, create healthy children. That's a big concern. But I think just hand in hand with a lot of other things, you know, caregivers benefits. If you're a caregiver, and that's a great point too. Caregiver, davcaregivers.org is another free service that we offer to support caregivers. Check that out. Everything DAV does is offered free, no obligation. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to do anything other than need the help to reach out to us. But if you have any question related to government benefits through the Veterans Affairs or connected with military service, please reach out to a national service officer. Don't feel like you have to go on to Google and become your own claims attorney, and don't hire someone. There's plenty of people who want to come between you and your money that you earned as
No,
your service.
you made a good point right there, because I've said that to other people. You know, they say, well, I'm going to go out and get a lawyer. You know, you have the DAV, you have American Legion, the VFWs, there's service officers all over. That's where you should go, because like you said, you're gonna make some lawyer rich, you know?
Yeah, yeah, we call them. I mean, a big concern is we're talking about claim sharks, and there are people where there's a financial incentive for something like that. There's always going to be people who take advantage of it. But like you said, there's a lot of organizations who offer that service for free, and it's not an adversarial process with the VA. It's about getting to a point where they can award benefits. But DAV will walk you through that. Nothing we do in the military do we do alone. We always had a battle buddy with you, and don't try and go through that process alone. Get some help.
Yeah, that's a favorite saying, nobody goes alone.
Yeah,
We're all in this together. And that's
yeah,
one
and
of
we don't leave our wounded behind, right? And that's DAV through and through.
that's one of the reasons we do this show. We
Thank you
want
so
to
much.
get it out. And anyway, I was reading your bio. Boy, you got a lot of medals, a lot of ribbons. You did quite a bit while you were in. But
Sometimes that's just being old.
you're not old.
If you
You're
stick,
talking
if
to the
you
old guy right here.
if you stick around long enough, you'll start to get more of those shining things for your jacket. Well, thanks. I was, for the most part, I enjoyed my time in the military. Iraq was challenging in a lot of ways. Um, I was glad that I was there, if anything, to get that burn pit thing started and get it done right. We started a burn pit registry, right after that. Right, shortly after the story broke, after we leaked the story, DAV started a burn pit registry. Then the VA started a burn pit registry, and we started the process to get people justice. And with the PACT Act too, it's important to note that Vietnam veterans benefited from that as well. And Vietnam veterans were the ones when I came home who took after burn pits like it was, like a dog going after its supper. I mean, they were furious, and they saw Agent Orange right away. I didn't see Agent Orange right away. I just thought, oh gosh, a bunch of people are going to get sick. Those Vietnam veterans took burn pits extremely personally. And they were still waiting in many cases years. Blue Water Navy veterans waiting years and years for help themselves. But we see that commitment with Vietnam veterans, and it's heartwarming really to see the impact that generation has had. The World War II generation gets the moniker, they were the greatest generation. But when you think about what Vietnam veterans face coming home and how steadfast they've been in fighting to make sure that their fellow veterans get taken care of, it's a special contribution that will, I think, go down as part of their great legacy after military service.
Well, I'm proud to be one of them. But and I've seen my brothers, with the Agent Orange and this and that. That's kind of why I do what I do. Is I'm an advocate for veterans. I'm not a service officer. I tell people that they come over and ask me questions. I says, you need to go see a service officer, not me. But I'm proud of what my partner Sue and I put together and what we do. But I understand you were a president of an organization called the Marine Corps Combat Veterans
Combat,
Association.
yeah, the United States Marine Corps Combat Correspondence Association. That was kind of, it's a charity that's affiliated with that career field in the military. They're now called STRATCOM, Strategic Communications Marines. So I was very honored. Keith Oliver really connected me back with that association that I'd been a member of years before when I was still in the service. And yeah, I was honored to get involved with that. It happened during COVID, so it was a pretty difficult time for the association. But it's a good group, and I was glad I got involved in another organization. I love DAV. I was glad to get involved with another organization just to validate that sense that there in every community we have people who want to give back. We have Bob Peters, who is a connector, who is someone who's vocal, who's getting out there and advocating for veterans, and then also just connecting veterans with help. And there's a world of needs out there. And I'm sure you're a lightning rod for people who say, gosh, Bob, I need help with this. I need help with that. And you're able to do something for them. sometimes going to a couple DAV meetings, getting involved that way, and just showing up and hearing some updates. If you join DAV, getting the magazine, just looking through that at what's going on with our benefits. It's a service to your fellow veterans, or even if you didn't serve, it's a service to be able to say to someone, hey, do you need help, with this? And you never know the change of trajectory of someone's life once they get the resources they need. And I'm sure you see that all the time, Bob.
Oh yeah, yeah. You do a fantastic job. Your organization does a fantastic job. You mentioned Keith Oliver, Colonel Keith Oliver. He's a dear friend of mine. He helps me a lot with I need a guest for this or a guest for that, and for the radio. I also do the radio 1410 to Q radio, as you know. You've been on it, and well, you know that Marine Corps Combat Correspondents Association you're talking about. I'm an affiliate member.
That's awesome. I remember Keith's told me that before. Thank you for that.
I'm honored. I'm honored that and I I work with all the branches. I've done stuff with merchant mariners, Marines, whatever you want to call them. You name it. All the different groups. History. So, but I love it, and I want to thank you for what you do, and I'll be looking forward to hearing who I'll be talking to next on next Friday. And you got anything else you might want a special thing you might want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I want to thank you again. I didn't talk a lot about caregivers, but those are people who are, really helping us out, helping out our community. The quality of life of veterans who require caregivers and the quality of life of veterans who are caregivers always seems to suffer. If we don't have those caregivers doing that work, it's going to fall on the government and taxpayers, and they want their loved one to have that dignity to stay home as long as possible. So we're trying to help those people too, and many people in your audience might know someone or be someone who could use help making that process sustainable. And so please give us a visit at davcaregivers.org. If you need that help, it's free. You'll get an assessment, and it can improve the health of the person who's the caregiver. It can get them out of the red in a lot of areas because they're always putting the veteran or the person they're caring for first. So I want to make sure people get involved in that too. And thank you. When I was listening to the radio show before I went on the last time, you had your elections commissioner on there, and he said that you're above 90% in the county for voting participation. Did I hear that right?
Uh, I think so. He's a Coast Guard veteran. If that's what he said,
I
then
mean,
he.
I was floored, and it just tells me that it's a very special community of people who care deeply about their country. Most people, you're lucky if you get a big turnout for any election. But I think it's great what your community is doing, the way that you all embrace your veterans. Thank you for that. And if DAV can help you or you can help DAV, let us know.
Well, I appreciate that. Alan Hayes is our election guy, supervisor of election, and he's Coast Guard veteran, and he has a display, and you walk into his office, there's a running mirror of all the different veterans, their pictures. He's really a dedicated guy, Alan.
That's
And
great.
yeah, he's a great guy. But anyway, I think we're gonna say goodbye. One last time, you want to put some more information out there for anybody?
DAV.org. Come see us. There's something for you with DAV.
And you're in Kentucky now? Is that where you are?
I am. We're just south of Cincinnati where we were founded, and we have an office in Washington too.
Okay. Well, if you're ever in Leesburg, Florida, you come see me. We'll go out and have a beer.
First thing, Bob. Thank you. It's on me.
Well, we'll talk about that. But thank you for all you do. It's a great organization, and I hope people out there are going to support you in a lot of ways, so, but it's time to say goodbye. And I told you how we do this. Now it's up to you.
Okay.
To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you. for all you do. Till next time. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Bob.